What if I told you that an entire Roman legion, 5,000 battle-hardened soldiers, vanished without a trace, not defeated, not surrendered, not recorded as destroyed, just gone, erased from history as if swallowed by the earth itself? This isn't myth. This isn't legend. This is one of the most unsettling mysteries of the ancient world, the disappearance of the Roman Ninth Legion. At the height of its power, the Roman Empire ruled nearly the entire known world. From the deserts of North Africa to the forests of Britain, Rome's legions marched with mechanical precision. They built roads, crushed rebellions, and spread the authority of the emperor with ruthless efficiency. But even Rome, unstoppable, disciplined, feared, had secrets, and none is darker than this. The Ninth Legion, also known as Legio IX Hispana, had a proud and bloody history. It fought under Julius Caesar. It survived brutal campaigns in Gaul. It crushed revolts and stood unshaken in battle after battle. These were not amateurs. These were Rome's finest. So how does a legion like that disappear? The story begins in Britain, a land Rome struggled to control, a land of thick forests, cold rain, and fierce tribal warriors who refused to kneel. By the early 2nd century, Rome had occupied much of southern Britain, but the north remained wild, untamed, dangerous. In 108 AD, historical records confirm the Ninth Legion was stationed in York, known then as Eboracum. They were there to secure Rome's grip on the frontier, to intimidate rebellion, to enforce order. And then, after that point, something changes. The Ninth Legion vanishes from British records. No victory, no defeat, no farewell inscription, nothing. Imagine 5,000 armed men, engineers, cavalry, officers, support staff, all simply erased. What happened to them? One theory is as dramatic as it is terrifying: annihilation. Some historians believe the Ninth Legion marched north into Caledonia, modern-day Scotland, on a campaign to crush rebellious tribes. These tribes were not simple villagers. They were warriors who knew the terrain better than any Roman scout. They fought with ambush tactics. They struck in darkness. They disappeared into forests and mist. Could the Ninth have been surrounded, overwhelmed, slaughtered in a catastrophic defeat so humiliating that Rome erased it from history? Rome did this before. When 3 legions were destroyed in the Teutoburg forest in 9 AD, it nearly broke the empire's spirit. The loss was so devastating that Emperor Augustus reportedly wandered his palace crying, "Varus, give me back my legions." If the Ninth suffered a similar fate in Britain, perhaps Rome chose silence over shame. But here's the problem. Archaeological evidence suggests something else. In the city of Nijmegen, in modern-day Netherlands, inscriptions from the early 2nd century mention officers of the Ninth Legion. This means that after their supposed destruction in Britain, they were still active. So if they weren't wiped out in Scotland, where did they go? Another theory suggests the legion was quietly transferred east. The Roman Empire was vast and volatile. Revolts flared constantly. In Judea, tensions simmered. In Parthia, Rome faced a powerful rival empire. In Armenia and along the eastern frontier, danger was constant. Perhaps the Ninth Legion was redeployed to fight Rome's enemies far from Britain. And perhaps, in one of those brutal eastern wars, they were finally destroyed. Some historians point to the Bar Kokhba revolt in Judea around 132 AD, a massive uprising that required enormous Roman force to suppress. Entire legions were mobilized, casualties were staggering, cities were reduced to rubble. Could the Ninth have perished there? There's no definitive proof. No mass grave labeled Legio IX. No ancient historian clearly recording their fate. Instead, we have fragments, gaps, missing pieces, and in history, silence is often louder than facts. But here's where the mystery deepens. Roman legions were proud institutions. They carried symbols, standards, and traditions passed down for generations. Their names were recorded in stone, their victories celebrated, their defeats acknowledged. Yet after a certain point in the early 2nd century, the Ninth simply disappears from all official Roman military lists. It's as if someone deliberately erased them. Why? Was it political embarrassment? A disastrous campaign Rome didn't want remembered? Or something more complicated, like gradual disbandment? Some scholars argue the legion may have been broken apart, its soldiers redistributed into other units, its name retired quietly without drama. But that feels unsatisfying, because legions were family, brotherhood, identity. You didn't just erase that lightly, unless something went very wrong. Now imagine this: a Roman column marching into the foggy highlands of northern Britain. Shields glinting in grey light, boots crunching on wet earth, the wind howling across empty hills. They think they are the hunters, but they are being watched. From behind rocks, from tree lines, from hidden ravines, tribes waiting for the perfect moment. The Romans were masters of open field warfare, but guerrilla tactics, terrain warfare, surprise assaults in narrow passes, that's a different story. What if the 9th Legion walked into a trap so devastating, so complete, that none returned to tell the tale? No survivors, no witnesses, just bones beneath Scottish soil, and Rome choosing to forget. The mystery has captured imaginations for centuries, not just among scholars buried in archives, but among storytellers, dreamers, and anyone who has ever been haunted by the idea of something vanishing without explanation. Historians debate it in careful, measured language. Archaeologists sift through soil in Britain and the East, searching for inscriptions, fragments, a single undeniable clue. Military experts analyze troop movements, supply lines, imperial politics, and still the silence remains. Writers were among the first to step into that silence. In 1954, British author Rosemary Sutcliffe published the novel The Eagle of the Ninth, a story that would define the legend for generations. In her telling, a young Roman officer named Marcus Aquila crosses beyond the frontier of Roman Britain, beyond the looming stone barrier of Hadrian's Wall, into the wild and untamed north. His mission is not conquest, it is redemption. The 9th Legion, disgraced and destroyed, has vanished somewhere in the mist-covered highlands. Its sacred eagle standard, the Aquila, symbol of Roman honor and divine favor, has been lost. And in Rome, to lose an eagle was worse than defeat. It was humiliation carved into history. So Marcus journeys into enemy territory to find it. Not for glory, not for empire, but to restore honor to the dead. Sutcliffe's novel was fiction, carefully imagined, emotionally driven, yet it felt real because it grew from a real silence in the historical record. The absence of clear evidence allowed imagination to bloom. Her story became legend in its own right, shaping how millions visualized the fate of the 9th Legion, and she was not alone. Filmmakers followed. Screen adaptations reinterpreted the tale for new audiences. Documentaries revisited the question. Scholars pushed back, arguing alternative theories. Perhaps the Legion was not destroyed in Britain at all, but transferred east. Perhaps it met its end fighting Parthians. Perhaps it was simply disbanded and absorbed into other units. Every generation reshapes the mystery, because that is what the 9th Legion has become. Not just a military unit, not merely a historical footnote. It has become a canvas for speculation, a symbol of Rome's limits, an uncomfortable reminder that even the greatest empire on earth, the empire that built roads across continents, that crushed rebellions, that engineered cities from stone and order from chaos, was still vulnerable to uncertainty. Rome conquered Gaul. Rome subdued Carthage. Rome marched across deserts and forests and mountains. But somewhere in a stretch of fog-bound land or an eastern battlefield lost to time, one legion stepped into history and did not step back out. Rome conquered nations, but it could not conquer mystery. Modern archaeology continues to search for answers. Excavations across Britain, Scotland, and the Middle East look for clues. Inscriptions, weapon fragments, burial sites. Every new discovery reignites the debate. Yet after nearly 2,000 years, we still don't know. Maybe the Legion died in Britain. Maybe it was transferred east and destroyed. Maybe it was quietly dissolved. Or maybe the truth lies buried beneath centuries of soil, waiting for a single spade strike to reveal it. History is not always a clear narrative. Sometimes it is a puzzle with missing pieces. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because the Roman Empire was built on records, documentation, order, discipline. But somewhere in its vast archives, 5,000 men slipped through the cracks of time. Imagine their last night. Campfires flickering, armor stacked beside tents, letters half written to families in distant provinces. Did they sense something was wrong? Did they march into battle unaware it would be their final sunrise? We may never know. And that uncertainty, that silence is what keeps this mystery alive. Empires fall, monuments crumble. But questions endure. The lost Roman legion is more than a historical puzzle. It's proof that even the mightiest civilization in history can lose track of its own warriors. 5,000 soldiers, one vanished legion, and a mystery that refuses to die.